Hello. Going to give you all, going to give some of the others another minute or two to join. For those of you who just joined, we're going to wait until 1:05 to start. We're giving everyone a few more minutes, so we're going to start in about 2 minutes. Okay, I'm seeing 1:05 on my computer's clock, so I'm gonna kick this off. This is our final LAHD office hours for the Homes for LA NOFA solicitation, which closes, incidentally, on Monday, October 20th at 11:59 p.m. I know that you are all busily wrapping up your applications and we are very much looking forward to seeing the projects that you are submitting to us. I see a lot of familiar faces. I'll just do a very quick introduction. My name again is Edwin Sun. I'm a housing planning and economic analyst in LAHD. And um, I think I'm just going to, in the interest of time, not ask for others in this group to introduce themselves and maybe just dive right into the questions. Although I do see that uh, we have a special guest, Eric Claros, who is one of the directors on the leadership team in LHD. So you may also hear some responses from Eric if there are some that I don't know the answer to. So let's just get us started. Does anyone do you want to raise a hand or you can come off mute? Um, no real rules here.
I mean, if there's no questions,
I have some questions. So, when we submit the financial statements, how do we keep those confidential?
I believe we saw this question and the system in UNOFA is confidential. People outside of your organization would not see those. I think your question was whether there was a way for us to prevent other staff on your team from seeing those.
No, it was about the general public. Like if these applications are open to the public.
So, as a government agency, our records are subject to the California Public Records Act.
Yeah, so if somebody makes a request, that's one thing, but you're not going to publish the applications, or at least the financial statements.
We will not be publishing the full applications. We will be publishing self-scores from that the applicants provide to us about a week after the application closes. And our records are subject to the California Records Act law. And if someone were to request those, I cannot promise that we would be able to
Yeah,
hold those private.
well,
yeah,
I think,
understood.
sorry, may I intervene here? I think I think we do produce things like that, documents like that, but we pretty much redact everything. So it's maybe just says the company organization name, and that's it.
Okay, perfect. I've seen a lot of program administrators, they are also subject to the California Public Records Act, but they also can be requested to identify something as confidential, and then their legal team will say, we have to do special circumstances for anybody who requests these public documents. So is that what you're saying, Eric? You guys do things like that?
Yeah, I think we would obviously resist even producing anything, but if we had to produce something, it would be so redacted that it's basically like there's no information that's visible.
Great.
Any follow-ups on that, Stephen, or?
No, I have some additional questions, but if anyone wants to jump in with their questions, go for it.
I have a question. In the NOFA, there's a lot of information with regards to equal benefits ordinances and Article 34 and things like this. We want to just make sure that we submit an application that meets these requirements, and some of these have documents, some of them do not. Just wanted to confirm whether or not you guys had like a global applicant certification that we're going to meet all these things, or if you guys are expecting us to just make a assertive applicant statement or certification that we just attest to these things. Would either of those work for you, Edwin?
So I'm not sure what specific requirement you're referring to. I
You
heard
have
something about the Article 34 letter.
you have things like equal benefits ordinances where you say, certification regarding ineligibility. You also have maybe weeby stuff, the um, minority business enterprise, women business enterprise, Article 34. This is like in section 3
Section 3, yes.
for the policies. Do you guys have like a document that just kind of globally attests that we're going to meet all these? Or do you want us to incrementally say, hey, we're going to meet 3.9 and we're going to meet 3.10?
Most of these will be on the assurances and conditions form, which is one of the threshold documents.
Okay, perfect.
Just to go off that last answer that you gave, Edwin, for document 4, one of the items there is certifications. Are you saying that we need to perhaps print a PDF that tab and submit it, or do we not need to do that since it's already in the portal?
Are you referring to the sponsor certification of related parties and conflicts of interest?
No, I'm sorry, let me pull it up real fast.
It's poorly named. Document 4 is really more like a packet 4.
Yes.
So there are a number
document
of
4, it has an item that says applicant borrower certification statement. And that's also what the portal has when we're certifying in the application. So I don't know how to provide this.
I think the question, Edwin, is what do you mean by applicant/borrower certification statement? Like what document is that?
I'm not, it's not ringing a bell for me at this moment.
It's PDF page 41 at the very top. It's in the
Okay.
list of things you're supposed to provide in document 4. And we want to give you applicant borrower certification statement. It just doesn't say what that is.
I believe it's referring to that certification of conflicts of interest and liabilities.
Great.
If that's I don't see it on the page that you're referring to. I know that there is under document 4. This is all related to information and background on the sponsor. So there is a certification form where you need to disclose related party transactions, RPTs, so potential conflicts of interest, and also any litigation, criminal proceedings, or any foreclosure proceedings that the organization is involved in. So that I believe that is the form that we are asking for. It's also linked on the web page if you want to access it outside of the application and under the threshold documents.
Got a question if we're moving on.
Sure.
With respect to document 16, the CTAC scoring certification, I know it says here for the 4% LIHTC projects, we have to self-certify that we're going to score 119 or 120. And then below that, for 4%, if we're applying under these certain groups, set aside, preservation set aside, BIPOC, that we need to demonstrate a tie-break score sufficient, et cetera, et cetera. Is there a reason City of Pool is not there? Because we're going to be applying in the City of Pool, and it's not listed as one of the groups here. Does that mean that we don't need to demonstrate a tiebreak score sufficient to attain an allocation in the last CIDLAC funding round?
You should interpret that instruction as asking you to max out your score and also demonstrate a sufficient tiebreaker in any pool in which your project hopes to apply.
Okay, even if it's not listed here, right?
Yes.
Okay, because we're going after City of LA. Okay, yeah, we'll prove that. Okay, thank you.
Other questions?
Yeah, Edwin, for the ULA alt model, I know in limited partnership can be an eligible applicant. If it's a to be formed limited partnership, is that also sufficient to say that that's the applicant?
Yes, so we have provided guidance in the QA sets that we do not need the limited partnership or the limited liability company to be formed at the time of the application, but there are forms. It's one of the documents that you need to turn in which you need to describe the to be formed entity in sufficient detail for us to understand what the management structure and the ownership, the equity shares of the various managers and partners will be.
Okay, and that's a separate form because I've done that in the narrative section.
It's great that it's in the narrative. There is also, you will see there is also an additional form that you are that you will need to download from the NOFA platform and then upload once it's filled out.
Got it. Okay. And then on the applicant certification tab in the online app, it says have the lead applicant fill that out. So who is I don't think lead applicant's defined. Who is the lead applicant in a to be formed limited partnership?
The managing general partner.
Managing general partner would be. Okay. Thank you.
I
And,
want to know,
sorry, Edwin,
go ahead.
related to site control, who needs to have site control? Because one of the admin general partner in the to be formed limited partnership does have site control, but does that have to be assigned to the to be formed limited partner, or does it have to be assigned to the managing general partner, or is it just okay that one of the members in the to be formed limited partnership has site control?
You guys love asking very technical questions. I would say that we are trying to take a broad view of the mix of sponsors in the development team. Again, knowing that we have many new programs and many new requirements in this NOFA. So it is the department's wish and really mindset that we want to have the flexibility for, again, different elements of the requirements to come from different members of the development team if it's not possible for all of those things to come from one entity. I would think that our attorneys and our underwriters would look very closely at the terms of that site control document to ensure that it is easily, for example, transferable from the administrative general partner in this instance to the managing general partner or to the entity that is to be formed. So I think as long as you have a clear rationale for doing that and a pathway for that site control to be transferred to the ultimate acquiring entity, I would think that that should be fine.
Okay, great. Thank you, Ed.
While we're on the topic of complex organizational structures and legal arrangements, I just want to be really clear with this group that there are slight differences between the LAHD requirements for the org structure in the various NOFA programs. And there's a difference between what LAHD considers to be a tax exempt organizational structure for the purposes of the ULA tax exemption for the ULA transfer tax. And I believe some of the people in this group have encountered this as an issue before and maybe felt surprised about the way that those eligibility requirements were being enforced. So I just encourage this group to also look closely at the department's guidance on ULA tax exemptions and what structures are valid. I see a question from Franny.
Hi, thank you. And I just joined, and I think you might have been answering the tail end of this, but I had a question about the difference between the borrower's certification statement that's in, like, listed as an attachment versus the one that's in the UNOFA application. Are those the same thing, or what is the city looking for from the attachment?
So I think you're right. There are narrative sections within the UNOFA application, and there is a sort of semi-narrative section where you are given the opportunity to both certify a large list. I think that's what you're referring to, right? A large
Yep.
list of, we will do this, we will not do that. We don't have these kinds of legal problems, and then an opportunity to provide a little bit more detail. So we ask that both of those, both the section within the UNOFA platform and the signed separate certification be provided to us. And I think you will find that the section in the UNOFA platform is even more comprehensive. But the PDF that we're asking you to provide asks you to sign that PDF separately.
Okay.
So provide them both to us. They
Okay.
overlap. There are some things that are present on the UNOFA platform that are not present on the PDF.
Okay. And then I had one other question about tenant governance. I know that there was supposed to be some kind of training sessions for us to kind of wrap our head around what's going to be required for that. I'm wondering if the city has any guidance on how to structure something like that, or any referred organizations for doing that.
The resource that the city is in the process of setting up is the ULA capacity building program.
Mm-hmm.
And as we had shared at the beginning of this NOFA, we had recently closed an RFP and selected a contractor to begin that work. However, the contractor is not able to begin, unfortunately, while the NOFA period is open. And so we continue to be in contract negotiations with that future awardee. Stay tuned. We are certain that that program will launch before any of the awarded projects will begin leasing up. So we should have that resource available in the next several months, well before, probably around the time that the award recommendations go out.
Okay. And then do you mind just clarifying just what's required at application then?
Yes.
If we're still, trying to get some guidance on that stuff.
So the tenant governance requirements are only applicable to the ULA alternative models new construction, the ULA alternative models preservation, and the ULA acquisition and rehabilitation preserving affordability programs. So those three programs have a tenant governance requirement. You are not only required to provide tenant governance in the project as it is operating, for those three programs, you are also required to demonstrate as part of your development team that you have someone on the development team who has had this tenant governance experience in the past. There are several ways to demonstrate that experience. They are detailed in the NOFA regulations as one of the threshold items. But yes, it is that you have to provide the tenant governance, and you need to show us that you have a member of the development team who has that experience.
Okay, and then did you say that includes ULA new construction? I'm sorry, I missed that.
The ULA multifamily program does not
Yeah.
require tenant governance.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions?
Yes, this is Corey. Really appreciate your answers here. A few questions on the ULA Operating Assistance Fund specific to the supporting documents section. So there's the entities and partners document 4E27. So I currently monitor a portfolio, the sponsor who I work for, of 20 different properties where we as sponsor have ownership. So do we have to provide one for all 20, or is it just one specific to the project that I'm working on?
Sorry, I'm not sure if I understood. Is it that the applicant slash sponsor is comprised of many entities that hold these different portfolios?
No, so that's a good question. So it's basically one sponsor, which is a owner operator development company, and we as the sponsor organization have 20 projects in our portfolio where we have some form of ownership, like sole general partner, co-general partner ownership. Um, but in this application, it's saying entities and partners document. Um, and so it's an Excel spreadsheet that, you put the entity name and all the details as to who the GP is, who the LPs are, tax ID numbers, etc. So do we have to do that for every single project? And no, okay.
No,
Is
so
that
so that
okay?
that this is the document that I referred Stephen to
I
in
got
the
you.
earlier question, and that
Hmm.
that demonstrates that document laying out the ownership structure and management structure is specifically for this project in which
Perfect.
we want to know the entity that will be acquiring if there is an acquisition involved, the entity that will be acquiring the project and then developing it and operating it. So that's the only
Okay.
entity in which we are requiring this level of detail about the ownership and management structure. For all the other properties within the portfolio, we are asking for the applicant to fill out the real estate owned schedule in which you will provide some financial information, some ownership and management information, and really it's for us to look at the health of the overall portfolio. So that's the document on which you should be telling us more about the rest of your portfolio, the real estate.
Okay, that's very helpful. Yeah, sorry I was confused on that. But that answer is incredibly helpful. Thank you. Couple more questions.
Go ahead.
So in supporting documents, there's document 28, evidence of enforceable funding commitments.
Mhm.
So if I'm applying a project for operating assistance funds only, it's an existing project, it already has um, different affordable housing encumbrances on it. Is that what I'm uploading to this section here? Like all the different, you know, like City of LA affordability restrictions, or is it a uh, different type of document?
Yeah, so I think I heard you say that you are applying solely for the ULA operating assistance funds, is that right?
For this particular project I'm talking about, correct? Yeah.
So for this particular project, because you're applying for the ULA operating assistance program only,
Hmm.
that evidence of enforceable funding commitments does not apply to this program. That enforceable funding commitments document is a scoring factor for some of the other programs where we are expecting leveraged funds or other sources of funds to be in the deal at the time of the application. And that is not something that we would envision for this program.
Okay, that is very helpful. And then my last question, uh, the milestones commitment letter, is there a specific template, or would you just need something on like sponsor letterhead?
It's a free form.
Okay.
It can be a narrative, it can be a timeline table, but we do look for detail on it, and we think
Sure.
that as experienced affordable housing developers, it is fine for you to tell us what you think those milestones look like, and if they're not sufficiently detailed for our needs, um, then we may view that as an underwriting risk. So no, we do not have a template for you, but let us know what you think your realistic timeline will be for for applying for other funding sources, for securing the other funding sources if applicable. Everything is as applicable, but any entitlements and approvals that you need to receive, when you think you'll start construction, when you think you'll convert to perm financing, when you think you'll lease up. I think all of those things that we generally agree are relevant.
Great. That was my last question. Appreciate all your help.
Okay.
Hi, I have a question for the operating assistance program. This has been touched on briefly in the FAQs, but a couple of the answers are slightly contradictory. So I just wanted to ask. I want to confirm under operating assistance pathway A and C, if we're requesting dollars for repairs or capital improvements under the $250,000 amount, we are not required to have a PCNA, and that the PCNA requirement only applies to pathway B projects that apply for capital improvement items. Is that correct?
I think that we have not specifically discussed this, but I'm just going to share some reasoning with you. I would think that pathway A definitely would not require a, a project or capital needs assessment, because if you were going into that pathway, you were telling us that the operating assistance funds plus the 250K in minor repairs is sufficient to stabilize the project. For pathway C, there is a possibility, I think, that pathway C is sort of like a catch-all for things that don't fit neatly into A and B. So pathway C, I think there's a possibility that based on your narrative, there could be some serious capital needs that you want us to be aware of. And you may, I think, based on your specific project's fact pattern, want to commission that capital needs assessment to share with us. But in general, I think you're right that um, it is mostly in pathway B, in which we absolutely always need to see the capital needs assessment, because in pathway B, you are saying that you want the operating assistance funds, and you will also have to seek some kind of capital source to further stabilize. And if you are in fact claiming that you need capital funds to stabilize, we are going to need to know the extent of your deferred maintenance.
Okay, I asked this specifically because the item that we want to perform is not deferred maintenance, is we want to add a new security system to the project that will help protect the project against additional damage, et cetera, in the future. And so we weren't sure that a capital needs assessment really applies if we're adding a new security system.
I think that reasoning makes sense to me, and it would make sense to an underwriter who is not seeing a capital needs assessment in your project.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
I had another question, Edward.
Sure.
So our managing general partner is controlled by a community land trust. So is that enough of a nexus or participation to qualify for a priority in the alt model?
I believe both the alt models programs pretty explicitly contemplate CLT participation in the management or in the ownership as pathways into the priority pool.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Your architectural design review, section 9 in the NOFA states some stuff if you could opine on, it states applicants must provide a written rationale. I imagine that's just a narrative you expect. You also say, and submit an electronic copy, Adobe, PDF, CAD later, of 24-inch by 36-inch architectural plans. Can I just confirm with you, question A is, do you need anything special on a PDF for regarding the size of 24-inch by 36-inch document? Question A, go ahead.
We did I think we answered this question saying that I'm not familiar with the standard sizes, but our response was that the standard format for the blueprints would be acceptable.
Okay,
Did
perfect.
that answer your question? I can't remember exactly.
It answered it well enough. Thank you, Edwin.
Okay.
And then with regards to the sustainable building methods criteria for TCAC, you have it here as Exhibit 1, architectural guidelines. What are you expecting to see for us to be able to demonstrate to you that we are scoring the points for TCAC's sustainable building methods?
I'm actually not aware that we will um, check for documentation for that level of detail. I don't know, Eric, if you disagree, but I was sort of imagining that that we would, at least for the sustainability methods.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Is an applicant attestation or assertion that we will meet TCAC sustainable building methods requirements, is that sufficient?
Sorry, I'm thinking. Um, I'm gonna just agree with Edwin here.
Yeah, what we will have our architecture team look at is what I believe and understand to be pretty simplistic blueprints and plans at the time of the threshold application. And I don't expect that our very small architecture team will be very involved in the scoring, which is where the TCAC um, maxing out points only comes in at the scoring, and I don't think that our architecture team will have the capacity to be very involved in the scoring.
I think that's great. I appreciate that. Last question for me is is you guys, and it's too late to even do anything about it, but out of curiosity, you have an underwriting comment that says in your scoring, half these points, don't remember what section, but half these points are going to be garnered depending on some stress testing of underwriting and cash flow and things like that. It's pretty vague. Uh, do you know what kind of things they're going to do to stress test in order to determine whether you get more points than the next guy?
Yeah, I think this has been a frequent point of confusion and contestation. We will not be taking your pro forma and sensitivity testing it or stress testing it by, for example, changing up the interest rates on your loans. We will not be stress testing it by assuming for example, 30% increases in tariffs to increase your materials costs. Although we would reserve the right to do that, and I think based on actual real world environmental changes outside of yours or our control, we need to have the ability to do that if we need to during the scoring. But that is not our intention. Right now, the stress testing is, for example, 15 years of positive cash flow with a debt service coverage ratio of 1.15 and above. We could, through our underwriting, say one stress test could be, does one project cash flow well for longer than 15 years, which is our minimum requirement. So there are many different ways for us to stress test. We could say, for example, we're looking at your cash flows, and not only does this project cash flow well for more than 15 years, this project cash flows well and has, I don't know, a debt service coverage ratio of 1.2 even at year 25. So those are stress tests that are already built into the pro forma. That's what we mean when we say that we will underwrite to stress testing, but we reserve the right to implement other stress tests if extenuating circumstances call for it.
That's perfect. Thank you.
Normally, this is a very chatty crowd. Oh, Vanessa, thank you.
Yeah, hi, Evan. Is LHD expecting for preservation projects, that are stabilizing or have deferred maintenance to be taking on perm debt?
First of all, thank you, Vanessa, for catching our mistake about the mobility percentage for the preservation units. I hope you saw that we corrected this. We do not, LHD's goal is not for projects in significant distress to take on private perm debt that will make the project more unsustainable. That's one of the reasons why we have a brand new preservation program that is covering 100% of your costs. That being said, as I'm just sharing our perspective as a funder, we need to stretch those dollars as much as possible. For example, the other two preservation programs, the ULA acquisition and rehabilitation preserving affordability, and in the pooled sources preservation program, we do expect you to leverage funds. Obviously, if taking on perm debt would make if completing your capital stack would require you to take on perm debt that would render your project infeasible in terms of cash flow, we would view that as very problematic. So I think there is a balance to be struck. We obviously want you to be sufficiently subsidized that you're able to cash flow and complete your capital stack, but I don't have particular guidance for how you size those capital sources to ensure that you're able to cover your debt service.
Got it. Thank you. Oh, I have another one. Sorry. We noticed that another version of the numbers went up, I think, yesterday. But I don't think there was an explanation as to what got changed. Do you know what LHD adjusted in the most recent version?
Numbers?
Yeah.
Are you referring to the pro forma or the?
Yes.
So, let me start by thanking you all for your patience and diligence in working with us on the pro forma template. So, I can tell you that in the last, sorry, I have a cat. I can tell you that in the past several days, what we have done is implement some situational logic to force residual receipts payments and deferred developer fees to stay positive or at zero. So we implemented logic to prevent residual receipts loans and residual receipts payments and deferred developer fee payments from going negative. Um, we are we will issue new guidance today. We are going to send out a mailing blast to let all the applicants know what has changed and if we will allow older versions of the workbook to be submitted if as long as it's not causing any of these issues. But these are situational. They only apply to certain fact patterns where we did not previously contemplate that some of these problems might occur.
If I may, also, I understand it's very late in the game to require this, so we are, we're gonna put official notice out later, but we what I can safely say is we do encourage everyone to use the latest version. It'll just make it easier for us to review. But we understand that it's Thursday before the deadline, so I think we're still gonna be able to accept older applications or older versions of it.
Thanks, Eric. Thank you all for being patient with us.
Hi, this is Janice. I have a question just for the documentation. For the real estate schedule, can we use our own version since we have so many properties, about 150 in California? So it is really difficult for us to transfer everything into the new template.
We did issue guidance in, I believe, question and answer set 6. So we will allow you to submit your own real estate owned portfolio, but it has to contain all of the at least all of the variables that we ask for. So as long as you provide all of the data points that are in our version, we can accept something in a different format, but it has to have all of the same information. And so I would encourage you to take a very close side-by-side look at your portfolio tracker versus the real estate owned schedule that we are requesting. And if you're missing some of those variables or some of those variables are maybe phrased or understood in a very different way, that you need to go in and add those columns to your version and then get that information so that we are working off a level playing field and we are getting all the same information from all applicants. But yes, we will accept it in a different format. It just needs to have all the same information.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep.
Hi, I have a question about, we want to submit a property for the operating assistance, operating subsidy due to tenant collection issues. And when I'm looking at the pro forma, I don't particularly see any issues, any like place for bad debt or uncollected rent. Are we just bundling that into admin or how? And that's the first question for the historical. And then the second part is I'd like to show that we expect it to get better with our management practices we're putting in place. And I can't change the forward-looking cash flow projections. So I'd like to make different assumptions for future years.
So I think I can answer your second question. Let me answer your second question first.
Okay.
So there is a tab B4 for operating expenses.
Yes.
That should show your operating expenses moving forward, not your status quo.
Okay.
It is actually in the B5 tab for the status quo cash flow where we want to see these various breakdowns of your expenses in the current project and for the past 3 years of the project. So there are this is the portion of the pro forma where there are two. Let me share my screen.
Okay.
This is the portion of the pro forma where there are two different cash flows. I actually cannot share my screen. Adam, are you able to give me screen sharing permissions? Perhaps not.
Okay, you're a co-host now, so you should be able to do it.
Yes. So I'm sharing my screen. So this tab, this B4 operating expenses, this is sorry, I was playing with my version, so let me remove some things. But this version is where this sheet is where you put in your forward-looking operating expenses. So not your status quo. Your status quos go into this status quo sheet B5, which is a 15-year cash flow where for the past 3 years, we ask you to manually enter in your actual expenses for the past your operating expenses for the past 3 years. These are all manual entry. And we want to see those breakdowns. And this is where you tell us what's happened, why things are going badly. And then this operating expenses tab B4 is where you tell us how you think things will work in the future. And then in the next the final sheet in the pro forma B6 is where all of those old cash flows are status quo cash flows are pulled into the previous 3 years, and then the operating expenses tab B4 pulls in starting at the forward-looking years. So I hope that is clearer now.
That helps. I just don't know if those assumptions apply to 2025. So that could be where I was getting confused. Like I would expect the restabilization to happen in 2026.
I believe the 2025 year can be changed. So if you go to
Let me see. I think you can do it on the status quo tab.
So in the B tab for summary, I believe if you change the year to let me think about this.
Oh, down.
Yeah, I'm confusing it. I'm confusing it with the capital tabs. The all of those A sheets. Yeah, it's actually supposed to I think it's actually supposed to adjust this year to the year that you say the project start. So I would say look for that. It should be in here. So look for that, and if not, let us know and we can give you some guidance.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I had a related question, actually, since long as you have that tab up. The B5 status quo projection tab uses audited 2024 gross revenue plus an inflator for its 2025 revenue, while the B6 projections that assume the operating assistance use the 2025 maximum regulated rents that we're supposed to put in on the unit mix. Those two things there can be a large delta between those two things, right? Like the maximum regulated rents is not what the tenants are currently paying necessarily.
Right.
So that's sort of what if there's a big jump there, which there will be, I imagine, on a lot of projects, do you want us to address that? I mean, are we thinking there'll be a big rent increase, or is there a way to hedge it to say, no, it won't be, we're not going to have that revenue in the next 2 years?
I do think any major discrepancies or even potential discrepancies you should provide some narrative to explain. And to be honest, LHD does expect to utilize our AB 846 authority to increase rents at the time that we infuse additional city funding into a project. So that is a work in progress.
Yeah.
I can tell you that there is broad interest among our developer stakeholders to look for some limited rent increases. So we very much did envision that there would be some uh, level of rent increase that would be paired with the award of our funds, and we have the authority to do those things.
It would be great if there was just like a, like if there was a way to put that assumption in, right? If there was but we could change the vacancy, but you can only change it forever. You can't change it just for the first 2 years. Or if there was a place to input what we think a realistic rent increase schedule might be or something. But I mean, I guess all the projects will have the same. You'll be looking at two sort of scenarios that aren't, neither of which is exact, right? Neither of which is actually going to happen, but they're illustrative, and you're
That's right.
or comparatively, I guess.
That's right. The model is a model. It is not your project's actual operations and cash flows. This is our best approximation of what it'll look like. So I think those formulas are appropriate for illustrating what they could look like, because we have to come up with some kind of formula. And we've talked about this in some of the past office hours, that the sort of the parameters of those potential rent increases under AB 846 are still being hammered out. I do want to share with all of you, if you haven't seen, that HCD has published their department's statewide guidance on how to implement those AB 846 rent increases. There are some limited situations where you may be able to increase the rents pretty substantially as long as the tenants can pay for it. There are waivers for projects that have dire financial needs. So again, those avenues are available in some form. We are still on our end trying to understand and parse what exactly those parameters are. But yeah, to your point, some level of rent increase is, I think, assumed, and please do provide some narrative to discuss what you think the appropriate and realistic number is.
Okay, thanks.
We have 5 minutes. Any other questions? Okay, well, silence is golden. I thought that last week would be my last office hours with you. It turns out this week is. Again, we are not extending the deadline. The solicitation closes at 11:59 p.m. on Monday, October 20th. We are about to publish our latest Q&A today, so keep an eye out for that. Good luck to you all, and we look forward to working together with you all.
Thank you.
Dumb question.
Thank you for all the office
but-
hours.
Dumb question, but that's 11:59 Pacific, right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.